Hello and welcome to the Peace and Happiness Podcast. I'm your host, Cassie Tan, and today we have our 15th episode. We are actually going to be doing 2 episodes for the month of May, and if you guessed it, it is about motherhood because of Mother's Day. So today is the episode 15, Mothering the Mother Within. Most cases, there are parents who want to have that secret sauce, the secret sauce and the how-to guide of how do I raise a good child? How do I have a successful child? How do I get them to that? And majority of the time, parents look outward. They try to find things to eat. Like, what are the things that I'm going to eat when I'm pregnant? What are the things that I can do, like musics that I'm listening to, genres, certain things? And the pattern to that is externally. We're always looking at something externally and outwards. We're looking for the new gadgets, the new programs, and how can this help with how I'm going to raise my child, when really, truly the secret sauce is what am I doing within and how can I better my raising and my child and others for what I'm doing within. So it's very much of that truth is internal. And you can only go as far as you've guided yourself internally. It's what Rauqel's always said. So if I am a mother and I'm struggling with depression, with anger, with anxiety, that is something my child will probably struggle with as well. So it's best to serve us, instead of looking outwardly, looking inward and start mothering that woman inside. And how do I evolve? How do I, look within and get to that extent where I know that I'm not coming from a condition, neither is my child, and where I am going to be raising them. It's best served in that area for me. So with that being said, we have Dr. DeMarty Burgos, and we have Miss Rauqel Veisaga here. And I want to talk about the mothering the mother within. So, Rauqel, you created the Peace and Happiness Workshop, and DeMarty, you've taken the Peace and Happiness Workshop. So I just wanted to ask you, in your journey as a mother, like, what have you done before and after, like, the workshop, raising your child?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I took the workshop probably 15 years ago. I just had a baby. He's 1 year old now. But I started this journey of internal work in my early 20s. And it's challenging to decide that you're going to make a commitment to looking at what's inside, whether it be trauma or life stories that we like to tell ourselves that might not be helpful for us in the long term. And so I did that journey with Rauqel, and the Peace and Happiness Workshop was so monumental in allowing me to take a step back and realize the big picture and analyze myself and ask questions about myself. Like, I really got to know myself by doing the workshop and not be afraid to ask myself, where'd that thought come from? That doesn't sound like something you're proud of to think. So after going through all that process and coming to a place where I could say, I feel fulfilled as a human being, I feel at peace with my life and all the life challenges that come my way, I felt like a pro. Dealing with them, I'm holding a tennis racket here, just dealing with them, squashing things as they come. Nothing remained as internal baggage that I would later put onto my husband in the future or my child in the future. These were things I learned to deal with as they came. And that skill, which became a reflex, is where I can now pull from. Having a baby, girl, it is not easy. It's challenging. My entire body, my brain chemistry changes. I can say from the medical side, the scientific side, my brain had completely changed to bring a human being to survive having a human being that I have to watch over and give it. Basically what I learned is we are giving this baby that's growing inside guidance on how to survive on the outside when they come. And the mental health that you have during your pregnancy is what they're inheriting in the moment while you're pregnant. It's called genetic imprinting, epigenetic imprinting. So knowing this, being pregnant, I really focused on having peace. When life challenges came, I faced them head on. I had my emotions and I squashed things as they came. And now that I do have a baby, I can say for the first 6 months, my brain was it took like 10 years back, like 10 steps back, because of literally going through trauma with my body and my brain and all the hormones that come through the stress response. But once I was around and I was observing this, by the time baby was about 5 to 6 months old, I was realizing, oh, my body was going through like a trauma response, and so were my coping skills. They were out the window, and I was bringing them back, and I was realizing I can be more observant. I will be honest, in the first 6 months, I would get mad at anything and anyone like this, mama bear. But I was observant to that and realizing that's not who I usually am. I realized my body's going through a lot. And once I was kind of able to realize and be grateful for what my brain and body was doing for me, there's no shame and guilt in my reactions to people. That's what my brain is designed to do. I am designed to be a mama bear now. And with that, how do I also have peace as a human being and provide stability in the environment for myself first and then the baby? If I can be at peace and experience taking life on thoughtfully, I can teach the same to my baby. And that's, I'd love to talk more about that.
We'd like to hear more.
I think what I heard when you said, if I can have peace, then my baby can have peace, right? And I'm kind of stepping in for somebody else that was supposed to be here as a guest, but she got sick, unfortunately. And she's a licensed therapist. And one of the things that, with Heather, is her name, that it took me a while for her to get, but she got it. And her life with her girls, which are like 8 and 5, I want to say right now, dramatically changed. Is that it was that thing, Heather, stop trying to make the girls be a certain way or be at a certain place or feel a certain thing, or why it's what we call this age rainbow kids or spicy brain kids or neurodivergent, right? And it's at the end of the day, I get it, it's real, and at the same time I call bullshit, because to me it's like, look, your kid is simply an extension of where you are. If you're an anxious person, I'm going to see an anxious kid. If you're a depressed person, I'm going to see a depressed kid. I'm going to see an overly people pleaser kid that's trying to... Their kids are very energetic, especially before they're 7. And so I really like that. And you said it yourself. You want to talk more about it. Like, tell us more about that, because I really do like that. Like, that's the number one thing. It's like who we are is what we get out of people.
Yeah, an example I can give, not with my baby, but with I have a younger brother who's an adult with autism. Perfect example. He has a capacity of probably a 7-year-old, emotionally, social skills, reading. He doesn't read or write, but he's 29. And people might describe his behavior as explosive sometimes. Understandable. He has autism, right? But I set the tone when I walk into the room. And you taught me that. I may have had a stressful day at work, whatever it may be. Before I get to the door of walking into the house, I take a deep breath and I realize, for me to be present, I got to take a deep breath and pay attention to him and observe him and be my loving self. Leave all the junk outside the door. And no joke, I can set the tone and his attitude will shift immediately. And sometimes other people will say, how do you do that? How, like, you just came into the room and he's a different energy. because I set the energy. And so I can say that with what I learned with you and implemented that with my younger brother who has autism, and implementing that in the future with a husband, having a new household, all the new stressors in life with the new phases that I'm in, and having a baby, I set the tone. Sometimes I forget to set the tone. If one thing that's really important is, what does it take for you to become present? Taking that deep breath. Sometimes I remove myself. I go to the bathroom. I look at the mirror, take a deep breath. If I need to take a shower just to take more time, I do that. I deal with whatever is going on up in here, and I process quick. One of the things that the workshop helped me do is to process quickly. It comes over time. At first, it's not that fast. It does take time and practice, but eventually it becomes your own reflex. So as things come, I deal with them. I step aside, deal with them. I come back out literally feeling refreshed, because those thoughts are no longer repeating in my head. There's no chatter. I can be present, and I can truly pay attention to my husband. What's his day been like? My baby, he's 1 year old. A lot of things are new and exciting for him. Some things are scary that maybe they won't be later on scary for him, but I'm there to help him. Hey, you started crying. I give him his hug. I validate where he's at. And then I say, let's try it again, baby. You can do it. Because I'm coming from a place of non-fear, non-anxiety. Whereas if every time he falls or stumbles upon something that's scary for him, and if I had an immediate jerk reaction of fear and anxiety, then I would teach him, yeah, you should be fearful and anxious.
Yeah.
But that's not what the real world is like. I want him to be able to withstand things that come no matter what energy they're coming at.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to regulate and be okay with what's coming. And the only way I can teach him that is if I'm okay with what's coming.
Right.
Because it's true. As soon as he stumbles or falls somewhere, he'll look back at me and just wait to see what's my reaction. And I'm assessing, are you hurt? If you're hurt, let me come hug you. I'll pick you up. There might be a bruise. But if it's kind of like he didn't hurt himself, but he fell, but he just want to make sure, like, is this a crying situation? And I'm the one to reassure, honey, you did it. You did it. You actually caught yourself. You didn't get hurt. Congratulations. Get up. Let's do it again. And that comes from a place of being present, having peace in my life, dealing with my junk when I'm not with the baby. But I will say, having a baby is a 24-hour job. I am human. Yeah. Things will come. I have to find ways to step aside, and husband, come kick in. Mom, dad, somebody come help me take a baby for 2 hours. I have an aunt who lives nearby. Hey, do you want to hang out with the baby for an hour? I'll just go do some laundry while you're here. But that me folding that laundry is my mental health time.
So given it's your first year as a new mommy, like, what has been the most challenging for you? And then given your training and your background, what has been game-changing for that challenge?
One of the things I worked on in the past with Rauqel was perfectionism, and using and not using that as a way to judge myself and other people. So fast forward to having a baby. Girl, my house is a mess. Okay? I can't deal. But if it means my mental health needs to be the priority, and having a break, even if that means like I just need to be on my phone or on the TV or on a phone with a friend for 15 minutes, and like baby's asleep, but I'm going to do that instead of the dishes, I'm very okay with that. Because there's a set of priorities in my head, and me being whole, complete, having peace, not overextending myself, that's my priority. Not the dishes, not taking out the trash, not doing the laundry. Not being mad at my husband, he has a whole lot on his plate too. Yeah. So I realized that it takes more than just one person. Sometimes my husband travels for work and he's gone for a whole week. And I'm like, well, gotta go visit my mom. I ain't doing this alone. My number one mantra to myself that I had to learn and make sure that I repeat it to myself is, I'm a super mom. I don't do everything. Girl, if the bags of trash are like piling up, I'm cool with that. I don't do everything. It's either take the 5 minutes to take the trash out or like spend those 5 minutes enjoying literally peace and quiet so that I can get back and be refreshed and present when my baby wakes up. So there's a lot of, it used to be a struggle, but now it's like, oh, I don't do everything. But I know I'm doing well with my baby because I can see that I'm present. When I'm starting to not be present, then I'm like, what else needs to change in my life today so that I can be present? Does
So
that
it's
answer the
always
question?
coming internally. You're always taking a look.
I'm always I'm checking in with myself.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, then I know I'm present for the baby.
Yeah.
And I'm thoughtful and I can teach him things and notice where he's at. And every new little thing he does, I'm on it. I'm excited. And it keeps me energetic during the day when I'm present.
So, Rauqel, for the clients that you have, for mothers too, what is the most common challenges that they have, and how do you guide them and coach them through that?
So Demarty said a few things that were very awesome. One thing that she said, I check in with myself. Most mothers, we do not check in with ourselves. We critique, condemn, and judge ourselves. Like, we feel guilty that we lost it and we raised our boys. Or we feel guilty that we went away. You can't even go away for a celebration or something with the girls because, you feel guilty. So we constantly don't check in with ourselves. So I think that would be a huge game changer. Instead of like guilting ourselves or judging ourselves, is checking in with ourselves, right? Another thing that she says is she sets the tone. And she also used the word regulate. And a lot of people, when I work with people, they don't actually know that that's available to them or that that's a choice. They feel like life is happening and they're just trying to put out the fires. And they're responding instead of understanding that their perspective of how they're looking at life is what's going to make it an uphill battle, or it's going to make it a breeze or something to enjoy or embrace. And she mentioned her brother. And I remember when he was in the hospital for, what was he in there, a week or two? Almost 2 weeks?
Actually, close to 2 months.
Oh.
Or over.
Really?
Several different hospitals. You met him when he was at the second hospital.
Okay. Yes, that's true. He had already been. So Demarty, I knew she needed help because she was in finishing her last semester, I think, in med school. And Mom, it was between them two. And I said, I can pinch in and stay a couple of nights. And so I would come over and her brother would be just fine because, I do the same thing. Like she says, that's something we learned from Body Rituals. And it was like, we set the tone, we set the energy. And so a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that within them is this force, that within them is this energy, and that they are a powerhouse and they can direct how this is going to go.
You come in with the intention before the situation comes. And then when you walk in the room, you bring it with you. Because I was just thinking, how do you do that? Yeah.
100. And so I think that's amazing. Those are things that I teach. Now, I also have people like Demarty that I've taught for a year or for a decade almost at this point, right? And they're having kids. And then I see them trying to raise their kids very conscious, we set the tone, we're good, we're happy. And I'm like, no, we're not. Your child is not 30-some years old like you are. Your child is not 20-something years old. You let this child have feelings. And so that's something too that I think with just the way how much we have in social media about enlightenment and all this, we're all striving to be this. That's great, but then that becomes an agenda.
Yeah.
And then being enlightened becomes an agenda.
Right.
And that's not loving for a child,
Yeah.
Because now they're actually, without knowing, a lot of pressure, And so, again, those are just things that you can mother, which means, for me, just have them know that they're loved.
Yeah.
Just, if you're going to mess up. Everyone's going to mess up. All the time. I recently, my kids are now turning 28 and 21 in less than a month. And I had a conversation with them about 8 months ago. I've never been a mother to adult kids. Oh, and because they approached me that they wanted to have more connection and more, and we're very connected, you know that.
Yeah.
But still, they're like, we want more of you. Like, everyone gets you. We want more of you. And it's like, okay, well, what does that look like? Like, because I've been...
you've never navigated
Yeah,
that.
I've never been a mother to adults. So that's just the part, you know, like being able to, instead of trying to get it perfect or right, choosing to, I like that you talked about being present, just allowing yourself to be human. Like, just, can we just all be human? And that's why, you know, the V-Saga sweater. It's hard being a human. I don't mean that it's hard being a human. I mean, it's hard because we don't allow ourselves to be human.
Right.
So I think, like, one of the things, would you say, DeMarty, that a lot of what's made your mothering year maybe smoother than the average person is that part? You're allowing yourself to be human?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had learned with the workshop and sessions with you and your other coaches, I had learned to take a step back and observe. By doing that, I can notice, oh, I totally dropped the ball there. And simply stay in the state of observing. Because my journey is sacred. That's what I learned. Every up and down and in between is sacred because it all leads to somewhere that I am now. And so when I did something that, I probably shouldn't do that again with a little baby. Or, that didn't work out for him. Maybe it worked out for other babies, but not mine. Or, I got angry at my spouse for no reason there. And like, we both made an error or trial and error. I had learned to not take guilt and shame with me from that moment. It just stayed as an observance that I learned from. And then my spouse and I might look at each other and be like, yeah, we should do that again. And then we move on. And there are times where I wanted to like, hold on, but I'm just such a bad mom. I can't believe I did that. Why would I do that? That doesn't even make common sense. And like, maybe in that moment, I wasn't in a state of being able to have logical thoughts because I didn't sleep or whatever. There's no guilt there. That is just being human. That is just being a mom. That is not sleeping. That is having a tiny baby who needs you for everything. No guilt. I think that I learned to not have guilt by working with you, which I'm so grateful for, because that is how I move on. That is how I take the lesson, jot it down, put it back pocket, and like, let's keep pushing because life is still coming. And I take things on. And that's how things don't turn into baggage. I've learned.
That's huge. Because I think that's one of the reasons as mothers that it's so hard for us to build connection with our kids and really like, when I think of connection with my kids, it's the part that I share anything and everything, age appropriate as they age. I would share age appropriate. And there's just nothing you're going to tell my kids about my life that they don't already know. And some of the conversations they have in front of me, especially my son, I'm like, could you not?
He's like, but we're open, Mom. I know about you. You want to know about me. Like, dang.
And what I observe is we tend to live with a lot of masks and facades because we're all trying to get it right or be right. We're trying to get it right or be right. If we took that out of motherhood, this fixation to be right or get it right, and often it's coming from the part of like where we've judged our mothers. I know there's a clip we have that you did right after doing the Peace and Happiness workshop where you said you got something that helped you understand your mom.
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but there's a clip that we have. And it's that part, like if we could just drop the facade or the judgment and just understand that I'm a human being And that's the part that I've always tried to convey to my kids, like, I'm human. Because by society standards, we make this archetype, the father and the mother, and we put so much pressure on what that's supposed to look like. And my motherhood does not look like most moms. And looking back, would I change a lot of things? Yes. Would I be the traditional Leave It to Beaver mom? No. I know I'm aging myself there because I don't know what mom would be the effect of Leave It to Beaver. But I was never that mom. I was that mom that even a few years ago, we did Canaraville Falls, and I have Athena on my back for 75% of the hike, and it's slippery, and it's
back with sweatshirts.
Yeah, and we strapped her to my back with sweatshirts, and she's 5, and I'm climbing this ladder that is teeter-tottering with water. Would I probably do that today? No. But I did the same thing when Sammy was 2 or 3. I did this other hike in Utah, and we were literally hanging, and there was no floor underneath us, and we fell. We would have fell to our deaths. And I think back, like, was that the smartest? And I was back then probably 29. I'm like, no, that was not. I remember trying to do this hike in Grand Canyon, and the lady looked at me because Samantha was probably like 3, and she looked at her and she's like, no. I was like, because I used to be such a hiker.
There?
Yes, it was like you had to pay like $200 and some, and I was so upset she wouldn't let me do a hike. And I was like, this I don't know. And like, I look back at this stuff and I don't feel bad. Thank God that nothing ever happened. However, it's just that process. Like, I was so much concerned with just making sure that they knew they were loved. And so in the end, we're still figuring it out.
That's a lifelong thing. After 15 years of working with you, and for every new phase in my life, it's a new challenge. It's new. It's like leveling up, so to speak. And I'm like, dang, I got to go back to like the basics here and revisit things that we talked about many years ago. And I thought I had it down, but that was just for that phase of my life. Every phase of your life brings something new that is a different new stressor that you're not used to. And it's so applicable forever. It's a lifelong learning process, truly.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm thinking about that too. I'm like, yeah. But it's also the same process where you're always going within at the same time. New challenge, but let me go within. Let me go and see that awareness. Yeah.
And going within, I have seen working in medicine, psychiatry, with you, with family, going within is not easy.
It's not common.
It's not common, and it's also challenging. When you're ready to finally do it, stuff is going to come up. But if you make the decision in advance, like, I'm ready for getting to know myself and being the master of my life, the creator of my present moment, my reality, it's doable. It's doable. And it just gets easier as time goes on.
So, final thoughts. What would you like to share to all the mothers out there on, what it looks like, what revolutionized mothering the mother within?
I would say whether or not you've had the opportunity before your babies came along, take a stop, take a break when you can, even if that means like get a babysitter so you can go sit down under a tree somewhere. Take a beat for yourself. Pay attention to where you're at. You cannot pay attention to where your children are if you don't know how to pay attention to where you are. So become present with yourself. And then 2, being a super mom means you do not do everything for everyone. Like all the chores in the house, all the responsibilities of finances and this and that and then that, like, delegate. Give things away for people to do and help you with. Because you staying whole, complete, and solid in yourself, being able to still focus on yourself and a baby requires a little bit of time. Take the time for yourself. And so what if the dishes are piling up? go buy paper plates. That's what I did. I bought paper plates. That's how we live in my house. I throw Benny away and then I wash way less.
Yeah.
But that's the extra 15 minutes that I'm happy to have.
Yeah.
Being present.
My kids would love your house.
Being present and then just realizing that you don't need to do everything. That's like
Redefining
my way of having
super
balance
mom.
is like, I don't do everything. And I'm proud to say that. You see how I took a shower today. You know what I had to not do to do that? The dishes. I'm cool with that. I had to show up for myself. And showing up for yourself takes something else has got to go. And it's okay. One of the things that does help me a lot is in my head, I rate things from 1 to 10. 10 being urgent, emergency, like you must do that, like pay my rent. You know what I'm saying? Like level 10 issues, I pay attention. But sometimes something might be a level 2 and I'm reacting as if it's a level 7.
Yeah.
I catch myself like I'm feeling like this is a level 7, but when I really think about it, it's like a level 1, 2. Okay, cool. So I can just like relax here.
Why do you think that happens? Like, why do you think that you react or start to have the feelings of a level 7 when it's only a level 2 thing?
When I'm reaching capacity or beyond that, when I'm stretching myself out too thin,
You lose
our coping
perspective.
skills that are usually good for us, they're not enough anymore. It's not enough for me to take 15 minutes here, here, and here. It's not enough for me to call my friend's family and go visit people and have time away from the baby and time with my husband and time with this. And it's not enough. All right, I'm doing all these things and it's still not enough. So maybe I should check in with like my reactions to things and just let it go. That's why I got paper plates. Because I don't want to be upset about dishes all the time. I don't want to be angry at my husband because it's been 2 days and like dishes are still there. And like he said he was going to do it, but he's got his own stuff to deal with.
Right.
He's working, he's doing this and all kinds of stuff. So should I be angry with him and like be angry while I'm trying to be present with my baby? Or should I just be like, we're a team, I'll go get paper plates.
Yeah.
And we'll just do dishes whenever you have time. Because I'm not going to do that since I'm full time with the baby. Like we got to split the work here. I do not do everything. And that's how I
And it's
stay
back to level
together.
2.
And I'm okay. It's a level 2 again because eventually they'll get done. Like we're going to need forks eventually.
Yeah. Or I have to buy some plastic forks.
We're going to need it eventually, but it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
The
There are certain
eco
things
people
that
are going to come after you.
I know.
Watch the comments.
Things
Go green.
There are certain things that will take care of themselves eventually.
Yeah.
For example, my sister-in-law came to my house and I just had the baby. She's like, "What do you need me to do? The dishes?" I was like, "No, girl, do my nails." The dishes will eventually get taken care of. My nails never will, though. So you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it'll eventually get taken care of. I have peace with that.
But not my nails.
But my nails won't. Like my self-love won't. That's the one thing that will not happen. So I'm like, all right, I need to prioritize myself and learn how to fit that into my daily life.
Yeah. I like it.
I think a lot of people would hear prioritize myself and say that you're putting yourself first. And something that I've had to teach moms a lot is you're not prioritizing yourself first. There's no first, second, or third here. It is in the what you're talking about, right? Like, is this a 10 or a 2? But what I mean by that is mothers need to mothers would be well served. I don't like to say need, right? Who am I to say what people need? But I would say mothers are well served to understand that they're part of the sum total.
24 hours a day is where my brain is at. 24 hours a day, it's on a baby.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take 15 minutes to be like, I'm doing my
And
nails.
that's the sum total. You are
Exactly.
part. You
Yeah.
need to be taken care of as much as the baby does.
Yeah.
That's it. Because then how else, it's like the mask at the airplane. How else will you be able to take care of him if you're
not putting your mask
frazzled
on?
and
Yeah.
yes.
And I learned because I know I need those 15 minutes every so often during the day. I understand that my husband needs that time too. So I don't get mad if he's like, I need to check out. Now, I am the full-time parent, primary caregiver in the home because he's working and I'm not. So it's really easy to be like, you need to come over here. But I know he's going through a lot. So like, I have grace for him because I have grace for myself. And like, do you need 15, 20 minutes? Like, it's cool, tap out.
Yeah.
But there's always communication because I don't do everything.
I like
Right?
that.
Yeah.
Is there any final thoughts for the?
For me in mothering, so I love the fact that she brought up the dishes. Yeah, you guys know me and dishes. My dishes have to be done at the house. They cannot pile up, right? So this is what I love. You see, there's no one way. There's no right way. Everyone's different. And my kids understand that the dishes done is like my peace of mind. Like I can have peace if, I mean, people know me. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to my house. And I did actually learn, because one day my son, 2017, he says, you have got to figure out what it is with you in this house. Like it can't, we live here. We're not a model home, because they used to say like, I like to have it like a stage home, you know?
I get that.
And
It's easy when you live alone before a husband and babies. Okay.
and so, but I would demand it off of them since they were kids. And I remember it was one day I went to LA and I came back and I had given him things to do. So when I came home, the house was immaculate and something came up and he wasn't able to get to it and I lost it. And he went back at me. And I was like, you need to figure out why you get so upset about this. And I remember like a little child, I went to the back of the house and I'm in the yard and I'm sitting there. Why do I? And I realized I grew up, there was a period in my time when I was growing up where we're a crack house. There was drunk people asleep everywhere. There were cigarettes everywhere. It was just a mess. So today, when I grew up, my immaculate home makes me feel like, it's my nervous system.
Yeah.
It makes me feel it's nothing like that. And so once I figured that out, I really released the obsession with the cleaning. And recently, I said, I love that you bring the paper plates and the dishes, because about 7 months ago, I decided I'm gonna let go of this battle. And if the dishes are so important, then I'm just gonna make sure that I do them. Because it is not fair, and I understand it's my home, I pay the bills, whatever you want it. But I'm saying, like, if it's that important, why am I demanding it from them? And I think a lot of times as parents, we don't get that.
I have a comment on that. So when I married my husband, he has a son and he's now 13, about to be 13, my amazing stepson. And we have him on the weekends. And I knew going into that situation, like I said before, having a husband and babies is really easy to have like a perfect environment because I'm the only one making and cleaning up my own mess. But I had to learn somebody else's style. My husband's idea of getting things done is like within a 1, 2, 3 day span. Mine is like 1, 2, 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had to learn that we have a different perception of time. And also because we worked on my perfectionism and my ability to judge others and myself and like needing things to be a certain way, when in reality it's just a preference, right? I learned I like all my cups to be in a specific order, the tall, the medium, and the little cups, and I put them in that way. But when our son is putting the dishes away, I had already decided in advance, like however he does it, I'm okay with because he's learning something new. And this is a great skill to have, just putting it away and being thoughtful of that. Maybe when he's older, I will apply, okay, let's tweak it a little bit more here and here to perfect what he's working on, but it's a process. And when I was his age, I was the same. I always look back like, yeah, I really didn't want to do chores when I was his age, but I had to learn how to clean, and it was a process. And now I'm like 20 years into this process, and he's like a couple years into it. Mm-hmm. So same thing, I had to learn like, however it's going to happen is how it's going to happen, but I'm glad that we're all on the same page.
Get to flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. The thing is, I have two final thoughts. One of them is that I just realized I can't demand from others what I can't give myself. Like if I need the external of the house a certain way, then I need to have the house a certain way. It's not like they're not kids, so they don't go around making a mess. But there's life that's happening, right? So then I get to choose that. The other part is everyone tells their kids you could be anything. You could be anything. And we start raising them and we put them in music and dance classes and equestrian or whatever it is, soccer, football, whatever, and you tell your kid that they can do anything. And the truth is, can they look at your life and see that you live that you could be anything, that you can have your dreams? And I can still remember one day in 2020, my son called me in the morning, left me this very sweet, loving message. And I was like, that's weird. And then he called me again at 3 p.m. He's like, Mom, I had a nightmare. I'm like, oh, what happened? Like, he really just waited as soon as he was off of work. And it was during COVID time. And he's like, Mom, it was a nightmare. I had 2 children. Now, this is a child that was considering getting a vasectomy at 22. Okay, so that was for him a nightmare. And so, he's just sharing this whole thing. And the reason it was a nightmare is because his life was gone. And in that moment, he felt like my life belonged to them. I could no longer go after my dreams. And he said, but then, Mom, I thought about it when I woke up and I was breathing. I was like, my mom has always gone after her dreams. She's still going after her dreams. And that calmed me down. If I was to have a kid, I can still live my dreams. So that's my final thought, that you're so busy mothering, but really often it could be a projection of everywhere that you miss, creating a life you love. And now you're trying to put that pressure on your kid, and you're trying to have them not go through or struggle or suffer what you went through. And so you're trying to take this human experience out of them and try and make it ever perfect. And there's so much to say in that. But I could just say, like, look, whatever it is that you wish for your children, give that to yourself. Because if you don't give that to yourself, how are they supposed to have a model, a template of what actually is possible?
Yeah. Mothering the mother within, mothering the parent within.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, Marty and Rauqel, for joining the episode today. And if you want more information, feel free to go to the website, www.vsaga.com. V-Saga, my bad. And we actually have a Peace and Happiness workshop coming up that Marty was talking about. So until then, we hope you heal, grow, and slay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.